San Diego's Jazz 88.3 and the new Jazz Thing. Music there from Kirk McDonald, the tenor saxophonist. New release is called Vista Obscura. Pat LaBarbera on tenor sax. Harold Mayburn on piano, swinging Harold Mayburn. Neil Swainson on the bass and Andre White on the drums. The tune You See But You Don't Hear is what we're listening to. In front of that, new music from Claire Fisher. This is actually previously recorded but unreleased music on a new disc called Out of the Blue, a medley, Carnaval, Felicidade, and Samba de Orfeo is what we were listening to there. I actually wanted to go back a little bit and say much love to Claudia Russell. Wasn't it great to hear Claudia today on the Jazz Ride Home? Love hearing her back on the air and playing some great music from the Divas Leave It to Diva disc. But great to see Claudia and hear Claudia back on the air, and you can hear her Monday through Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time here. And she's got a great Facebook page too, The Jazz Ride Home with Claudia Russell, so you can check her out there. You're listening to the New Jazz Thing. My name is Vince Outlaw. Los Hermanos Arango are a band from Canada, from Cuba, that are here in San Diego, playing at the Loft at UCSD this coming Wednesday, October 14th. They're also playing up in Los Angeles at Catalina Jazz Club. And joining us this evening to talk about the music of Los Hermanos Arango is their piano player, Julio Valdes. And Julio, welcome to the New Jazz Thing.
Thank you, Vince. I'm really happy to be here.
So let's get right into some music. You've picked out something for us to check out, and then we'll dive in deep. Tell us about this first tune we're going to hear a little bit of.
Yeah, this first tune is called Oshun Yeyeo, which is basically, as you will hear, it's sang in ancient African languages. It's actually folkloric music from Cuba that is adorned with funkified jazz. And
that seems to go to what the heart of Los Hermanos Arango are, and we're going to get right into that. The name of the tune again?
Oshun Yeyeo.
On the New Jazz Thing, San Diego's Jazz 88.3. San Diego's Jazz 88.3, and music there from Los Hermanos Arango. And joining us this evening, Julio Valdes. So Julio, tell us a little bit about Hermanos Arango and this style of music, as you mentioned, folklore jazz, a mix of folkloric music, Afro-Cuban folkloric music, and funkified jazz. Are Los Hermanos Arango a new band, or how have they been around for a while?
Well, yeah, this is first and foremost a family band. So the core of the group are the Arango siblings, There's four of them: Ignacio on guitar, Feliciano on bass, and then Eugenio and Cristina both on percussion and vocals. So they founded this group in Cuba about 10 years ago, actually, with the idea of blending what they grew up with, which was, or it is still, the ethnic, true folkloric music from Cuba, which is actually African. So blending that with jazz. And the reason they can blend it is because they are all academically trained symphonic, orchestral, let's say, musicians. So they grew up in Guanabacoa, which is one of the marginal, I guess, they still live there actually, one of the marginal neighborhoods, let's call it, or areas of Havana, where the ethnic folklore is very pronounced. So they grew up in that, and then on top of that, they are academically trained musicians. So they had this idea of blending both, and then they end up with what they call, or we call, folklore jazz.
So then how did they become acquainted with jazz? Was that through the academic studies?
Yes. In fact, I hear from them. I'm from Panama, so I didn't grow up in Cuba, of course. I grew up in Panama, but they tell me, stories of growing up, how the American jazz was so profound. They were so adamant to search for jazz and listen to it. And sometimes they tell me, we were listening to jazz, to Yellow Jackets, for example, for years, and we didn't even know it was Yellow Jackets. Until then we learned, So jazz for a Cuban musician in the, let's say, 70s, 80s, 90s, American jazz, even though it was kind of out of reach because it's American, right? They definitely were always trying to, play jazz. So even though they are academically trained from the orchestral side, they were always passionate about jazz.
So how well known in Cuba are Los Hermanos Arango? Are they a big band, or are they well known?
They're very well known. They actually just recently received what would be the equivalent of the American Grammy in Cuba, which is the Cuba Disco award. And they've actually received the Oro Negro, which is the CD of the song that you will play, I guess, last. It received the highest prize, for example, in that. And they just received, I guess, one year ago or 2 years ago, a prize for a documentary that was basically made of them and their music, because it's a unique music even inside Cuba.
So remind folks again where you're going to be playing this week, both here and in San Diego and up in Los Angeles.
Yes, of course. Thank you. We are going to be playing on Wednesday, this is October 14th, in the Loft in San Diego at UCSD. It's called the Loft. It's a venue that is actually inside the UCSD campus. For those of you who haven't been there, it's very, very nice, very well run. The audio is excellent, etc. And we're going to be playing there. The show starts at 8. It's $11 general audience. The next day, which is on Thursday, October 15th, we'll be playing at the famous Catalina Jazz Club in LA, Sunset Boulevard, 6725 Sunset Boulevard. And that show starts at 8:30 and has a $20 cover.
So let's play a little bit more music. The tune that you picked out was from that Oro Negro disc,
yes.
And it's called Fiesta Negra. Tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear here.
Yeah, Fiesta Negra is basically a tune, again, ethnic Afro-folkloric jazz. This time the rhythm is called palo.
Okay, great. We're chatting with Julio Valdes of Los Hermanos Arango. They have a date here this Wednesday at the Loft at UCSD, and then up in Los Angeles on Thursday. Let's check out some more music from them here on the New Jazz Thing, San Diego's Jazz 88.3.
Licencia Coro, Fernando Arango, licencia Coro, José María Rueda, licencia Coro, carajo, Julio, carajo, licencia Coro, Ángela González, licencia Coro, Zaragoza con su primer y batalla Congo.
San Diego's Jazz 88.3 and music there from Los Hermanos Arango. They're playing at the Loft at UCSD this coming Wednesday, the 14th of October. And joining us to talk about their music is the pianist for the band, Julio Valdes. Julio, welcome back to the New Jazz Thing.
Thanks, Vince.
So great to have you here, Julio. So tell us, how is this unique blending of Cuban folkloric music and jazz? Are there other bands in Cuba that have done this? How is this unique?
This is a very good question. I think the answer is actually, well, let me just say this. Many groups in Cuba and everywhere in the, let's say, Hispanic America have taken music and then added to it different folkloric elements, right? That's the general trend. But the unique thing about Hermanos Arango is that they've taken the unaltered folkloric chants and patterns, literally as they have been played in Cuba since the slaves came, probably literally as they have been played in Africa since, I don't know, hundreds, even probably thousands years ago, I don't know, right? Those chants and rhythms, which is the folkloric element, it's totally unaltered. The reason they can actually perform these unaltered patterns and rhythms and chants that go with the patterns, there's all sorts of laws associated with this. The reason they can do it is because they grew up in that place.
Right.
So what they do is they take the unaltered stuff and then they build upon it the jazz arrangement. This has never been done. I mean, you hear, for example, some Latin jazz, and then the group will implement very nicely, bata drums, which are basically ancient African drums, actually, not even Cuban, they're African, which is what we play with. We don't play with a drum set.
Right.
So a Latin group, for example, a Latin jazz group could, for example, implement batas and play some bata on top of their tune, and it would be great, But the unique thing about Los Hermanos Arango is the unaltered folkloric, array, and then dressed with the jazz instrumentation.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So we hear a lot about these days about the changes that are coming or that are happening now, that there's a thawing of the relationship between the United States and Cuba, and we hear some people saying things are going to change and things are going to get watered down. The U.S. or Western influence is going to water down the music. I know you're not from Cuba, but you talk with the members of the band,
yes.
And you're part of that band. Are the members of the band, do they ever express any of that, or thinking of how they're going to kind of shield their music and be authentic, continue to be authentic? Is that something that gets talked about, or is that not a worry yet?
Well, I don't think it is a worry. Cuban musicians are very proud of their music and their contribution to Western music in general. So I think they know that they know what they're doing, and I think they are very loyal to the rules of their own music, right? So if they were to, I think they would welcome changes, but only if they can explain those changes. If you get what I mean.
Right.
If they are going to implement some, sort of trend into their music that comes from, let's say, U.S., they are going to do it in a way that it doesn't break the rules of their music.
Right.
And Cuban music actually, even though it seems that it's not, because it's so open and amazing, it has some rules that one needs to follow to be truly, correct with the music.
And they respect their music enough to know if we're going to change it, we need to explain what we're doing,
yeah.
and understand what we're doing as
exactly.
we change it.
Exactly.
As we change it.
Yeah.
So you're here in the United States. You actually live in the San Diego area.
That's true. That's
And you've been influential in bringing Los Hermanos, the siblings, here from Cuba.
Yes.
Has that been what are some of the challenges that you've had to face in doing that?
Well, the just basically, in quotes, bringing them to the U.S. It's basically going through the process of finding or getting them an interview in the embassy in Cuba so that they can request a visa with a special permit to work here in the U.S. And it's the process is there. The U.S. has everything written out, but it's a very long, tedious questionnaire / different things in the process have to be done for that to happen. But having said that, it was quite straightforward except the fact that it's such a rigorous procedure.
You knew what you needed to do, but
Yeah.
it just took a long time to do.
Exactly. It wasn't some kind of mystery thing.
Mm-hmm.
But they live there. They have lived there all their life. They've gone with different groups all over the world, so their passports are basically stamped with Germany, Japan, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go to the embassy and they show that, they have some credibility that they are going to return to their country, and they just come here to share their music.
We're chatting with Julio Valdes, pianist for Los Hermanos Arango, and they're playing this week here in San Diego and in Los Angeles. One more time, Julio, remind folks where you're going to be playing this in San Diego and in LA.
Yes, for sure. On Wednesday, October 14th, at the Loft at UCSD, it's a concert venue inside the UCSD campus in La Jolla. We start the show at 8 p.m., the Loft. And October 15th, that's on Thursday, we're going to play in the Carolina Jazz Club in Los Angeles and Sunset Boulevard. We start the show at 8:30. And for anything else you'd like to see the group, videos and music, our website is www.loshermanosarango.com.
And we've put a link to their website and information about the Loft date here in San Diego out on the Jazz 88 blog, out on our post for this evening. So you can go out to jazz88.org and then look for the blog, or just scroll down. We're sitting there on the homepage, and you can find links to all of that. Julio, we're going to leave tonight with another tune from the Oro Negro disc. Tell us about the tune we're going to be listening to.
Yes, this tune is actually one of my favorites. The guys, the Arangos, always play that song for me when we're in the car and stuff like that. This is called Asojano, and is a different rhythm now. This rhythm is called Guiro.
Well, Julio, it's been an honor and great time chatting with you. Best of luck with the dates this week here in San Diego and up in LA. And best of luck with you and Los Hermanos Arango going forward.
Thank you very much, Vince. Thank you.
We were just chatting with Julio Valdes of Los Hermanos Arango, and this is a tune called Asojano on the New Jazz Thing, San Diego's Jazz 88.3. There we go. Okay, wave goodbye. There we go.